Becoming unapologetic doesn't mean you no longer have any doubts or fears. It just means that you got to a place where your drive and your desire for more got bigger than your doubts and your fears. Hi ladies, welcome back to the feminine universe. I am so happy to have you here. Each stage of your life is going to require a different energy from you. In certain stages, you're going to need an energy that is more calm, patient, and steady. And in other stages, you're going to need that driven, determined, all gas, no brakes energy. When you reach the stage where you decide you want to be great, the energy you're going to need is unapologetic energy. Because to be great, you can't be unsure. You can't kind of want it. You can't be concerned about who's offended by your greatness or your desire for greatness. And you definitely can't be concerned about who thinks you deserve it or who thinks you don't deserve it. You have to be able to say, I said what I said, I want what I want, and I'm going after it, period. If that sounds like where you are in life right now, if the regular degular just isn't cutting it anymore, if the level you're at is no longer satisfactory to you, you may just be ready for your unapologetic era. So today, to help my ladies currently in this era or my ladies getting close to it, I want us to discuss how to truly embrace greatness in our lives and how to be absolutely unapologetic about it. So if you feel ready for that, let's get started. Just before I share these 5 tips, let me be very clear about something. Embracing your unapologetic energy is not a pass to be obnoxious, inconsiderate, arrogant, or rude. It's not about walking into places and being loud and ridiculous without regard for others or blurting every thought that comes to your mind and speaking without any sort of filter because you're being quote unquote unapologetic or keeping it real. It also doesn't have anything to do with not being willing to apologize when you make a mistake. No, unapologetic energy in this context is about getting to a place where you're done shrinking when it comes to your personal growth and your personal achievement. It's about getting to a place where you can say, I want great things, I'm great at certain things, I'm willing to do the work for great things, and yes, I deserve great things. And being able to say that without hesitation or shame or embarrassment or bashfulness. That's the kind of unapologetic energy I'm talking about in this context. Now that we've cleared that up, let's get into the tips. Tip number 1 is to embrace your strengths and your weaknesses. One of the first things you should do to step into your unapologetic era and to really exude that unapologetic energy is to learn to embrace both your strengths and your weaknesses. A trap that a lot of people fall into is either focusing way too much on their strengths or way too much on their weaknesses. When you focus too much on your strengths or when you only focus on your strengths, it's easy to become arrogant. And when you're arrogant, you can miss your weaknesses and your blind spots. And so you don't get that chance to fix them or improve areas where problems can arise down the line. Only focusing on your strengths can also just stunt your overall growth. Socrates said, the only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Seriously, the more you learn, the more you should be realizing how much you didn't know and how much you still don't know. It's a humbling process. But when you only focus on your strengths, you can develop a bit of this I made it energy. You can get caught up in your own hype and forget that there is so much more to learn outside of what you know and what you've achieved. And because of this, you kind of close yourself off from opportunities to continue to learn and grow. And let's face it, it also hurts your social life as well. No one likes an arrogant, know-it-all, let me tell you how great I am 24/7 type of person. Not shrinking yourself doesn't mean becoming obnoxious and unbearable. Now, on the other hand, when you're way too focused on your weaknesses, it can completely paralyze you. If all you can think about are the things you're bad at or how bad you are at a particular thing, How will you ever have any confidence or faith in yourself to propel forward and try anything new or take any risks? And if you don't have faith in you, how is anyone else supposed to have faith in you? Also, when you're hyper-focused on your weaknesses, you tend to have this desire to want to hide them and not have them exposed to the world. So instead of working on your weaknesses, a lot of your energy ends up going into covering up those weaknesses and trying not to let other people see them. Rather than tackling these weaknesses and actually becoming a better version of yourself, you become obsessed with creating the right facade to hide them. And in the short term, that is easier. But in the long term, hiding your weaknesses instead of working on them is like having a wound or a sickness you're trying to hide from others. And so you do all these things to hide the symptoms, but in the meantime, you're getting more sick because you're not doing anything about your actual condition. And you will be extra tender, sensitive, and in your feelings when someone notices or points out what you've been trying to hide. This is why to really live your most unapologetic life and walk that line of being confident in your abilities and proud of your achievements while still working on your weaknesses and realizing there is always more to learn, you need to embrace both your strengths and your weaknesses to achieve true balance. You'll notice that people who are able to embrace both their strengths and weaknesses are usually the ones who can graciously accept both praise and constructive criticism. The next tip is to master your self-awareness. When I say self-awareness here, I'm talking about intrapersonal awareness or self-knowledge, particularly when it comes to three things: knowing who you are, knowing what you want, and knowing what's important to you. When you know who you are, it's easy to make decisions that are in alignment with who you've chosen to be. And so you'll be able to avoid a lot of shame, regret, and internal conflict in your life. When you know what you want, you're not wasting time. Uncertainty in what you want will make it difficult to be great. You'll either be too easily swayed, or your attention will also always be way too scattered to truly become great in any one area. Imagine sitting through med school if you didn't want to be a doctor. Why are you spending time with F-boys if you want a high-quality husband? That's exactly what happens when you're not clear on what you want. You go in directions that don't serve you in the long run or that may even hurt you. And when you know what's important to you, you can both prioritize the important things effectively and decide which battles in life are worth it. I'm convinced that the people who go to war with others over every little thing or who are offended by every little thing have no idea what's important to them. Because when you have a vision, when you have a big picture in your mind and goals you're trying to achieve, you literally cannot afford to spend time getting caught up in every little detail, especially details that have nothing to do with you or your goals. Knowing these three things is also crucial to your unapologetic energy because it makes you more sure and more concrete in your choices. For any action you have to take or any decision you have to make, you can just run through those three things and ask yourself, does it align with who I am? Is it something that I want? And is it something that's important to me? When you can answer these three things in regard to anything that you're dealing with, it makes it so much easier to be unapologetic with your yeses and your nos and to stand on the decisions you've made. And if you're still figuring out who you are, what you want, and what's important to you, there's no shame in that. You may be in the process of learning these things about yourself right now. We all enter different seasons and different eras at different times, but understand that this is a necessary component. So don't skip or try to fast forward through this step in your journey. Get that deep self-awareness and self-knowledge. Tip number 3 is to put in the work. One thing I have unapologetically promoted from day one is women doing the work. Doing the work on themselves, doing the work to have their own, doing the work to be their absolute best in order to attract the best opportunities, experiences, and people. Like I said in our Live Your Softest Life video, I want us to be fully capable of doing everything we need to do while fully realizing we don't always have to. And I harp on doing the work because there are few people more insecure and more insufferable than people who have things handed to them or those who expect to have things handed to them. They are falsely arrogant, annoyingly entitled, and yet still deeply insecure. For example, when you truly put in the work on yourself and in your life, you're not playing hard to get because you heard someone say it, but secretly stalking the other person on social media or staring daggers into your phone hoping they'll call. You are actually hard to get because you actually have things to do. You've built a life you love and are proud of, a life where if people aren't respecting it, complimenting it, or adding to it, you'd actually prefer that they leave. That's what doing the work will do for you. It will have you feeling like, baby, anything I require or ask for, I deserve because I earned it. I demand that people who want to be in my life enrich it because I've built an enriching environment for myself. And I've worked on becoming someone whose presence is enriching to others as well. I demand I get paid in full and on time because I'm prepared, I'm professional, and I put in the work to be quite good at what I do. When you do the work, there are no ifs, ands, or buts, whether it comes to running you your check or giving you your respect. You're not desperately hoping someone will give you something you don't deserve. It's not charity for you. It's earned income. You'll have the unapologetic boldness to say literally and figuratively, I did the work, now pay me. The next step after you've done the above is to step into your greatness or truly embrace greatness. And as we get into this point, I really want to highlight the fact that greatness is not about perfection. Greatness is about effort. Greatness is about truly doing your best. That's one of the main differences between greatness and mediocrity. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right every time, but you should always strive to be a little bit better than you were yesterday. You should strive to be consistent and disciplined. Being mediocre, stagnant, or complacent is just no longer an option at this stage. You won't say things like, I may not be great, but so-and-so is worse than me, so I'm okay. No, it's about getting to a place where you really are your own competition. Also, becoming unapologetic doesn't mean you no longer have any doubts or fears. It just means you got to a place where your drive and your desire for more got bigger than those doubts and those fears. And some days that might mean being absolutely terrified, but doing it anyway. So when I say step into your greatness, I don't want you to be overly intimidated, thinking you're no longer allowed to have a bad day or that you have to be perfect. You don't, but you do have to let go of that attachment to doing the bare minimum. With that said, stepping into your greatness is a 4-part process that includes 1, embracing the desire to be great. That means not being ashamed, embarrassed, or bashful about wanting more or wanting better or just wanting something different. 2 is being great and doing great things. As we talked about, being great is making the decision to show up every day. It's making the decision not to be mediocre or not to do the bare minimum when you're capable of more. Doing great things is about taking action and being able to proudly say, I did that, or I am great at that in an area where you excel, and being able to confidently take credit for it. 3 is believing you deserve greatness or accepting greatness. This may sound like part 1, which is embracing the desire to be great, but the difference between believing you deserve greatness and embracing the desire is the difference between allowing yourself to want greatness and then how you react when great things start happening. It's about fully allowing yourself to accept and enjoy great things, because people will hope and pray and work and claw towards a certain thing for so long, and then when it finally happens, they still flinch. They don't fully want to believe it. They question it. They may even find a way to sabotage it, because even though they allowed themselves to have the desire to be great, they still don't fully believe that they deserve it. Imagine turning down your paycheck after working 2 weeks, or turning down your diploma after completing years of schooling. Sounds crazy, right? So as you enter this era, don't be crazy. When people want to treat you well, when opportunities start to present themselves and doors start to open, accept it comfortably. This is why you did the work. You earned this. You deserve it. And step 4 of stepping into your greatness is uplifting others to greatness. Do you know how they say hurt people hurt people? Well, I also believe inspired people inspire people. I think great people bring out greatness in other people, and they make a point to contribute to the greatness of others in some way, big or small. You'll find that you want people putting in the work on their journey to find and feel the happiness and satisfaction that you have, and they'll be able to look at you and learn from you and see that it's possible. It's a beautiful thing. And that transitions us perfectly to the last tip, tip number 5, which is to get around the same energy. Get around people with unapologetic energy. If there's one thing that will stifle your greatness, it's being around people who are still thinking small and playing small, especially when they continuously try to impose that way of thinking on you. To be clear, I'm not talking about people who tell you to have a backup plan, like a parent telling you to get an education while still supporting you and taking you to your singing and acting classes. I'm talking about people who just flat out tell you that what you want is not possible. Don't even bother trying. People who tell you you should ask for less or you should accept less. That's what I'm talking about. Now, getting around people who have their own unapologetic energy is priceless, because they'll be the types to be more likely to keep propelling you forward, who tell you to shoot higher, who tell you to be proud of your achievements, and who give you tips on how to keep climbing. Another reason it's so important to get around people with that energy is because you'll notice as you start to get more sturdy and unapologetic within yourself and with what you're achieving, you'll actually have to get a little more careful and a little more strategic with how you show up and how you express your achievements or who you express them to. Because other people who are not on your wavelength yet or who are not in their unapologetic era yet may view your new energy as being bougie or uppity or conceited or bragging. And it's not because they're bad people. Well, not all of them. I really want to make this point clear and not demonize normal human behavior. It's going to be extremely difficult for anyone who is starving to watch you feast or to listen to you detail how much food you have. That is normal human behavior. Most people can only see life through the lenses they have on. So if they have on rose-colored lenses, sure, they're going to see the world with that pretty rosy tint. But if they have on gray-colored lenses and that's their reality, they are going to see life through that depressing gray tint. When they don't have achievements yet, or when they're not happy with where their life is yet, you constantly talking about your accomplishments and the goals you're making and crushing may offend them, like talking about your abundant food would offend the starving person. Or it just may make them feel less than, or like their life is a mess in comparison, bringing in shame. They may even feel like you might be looking down on them, and then they can become unnecessarily defensive. So that's yet another reason why it's very important to have people in your life who are also proud, unapologetic, and celebrating wins in their own life. It's also necessary to learn how to navigate the different spaces and the different energies of unapologetic people versus people still figuring themselves out. It's not about dimming your shine, but it's also not about being insensitive, out of touch, or oblivious in the wrong places. So, to end this video, I want you to know that this space right here, this little universe we've built together, is somewhere you don't have to be afraid to shine. You don't have to shrink yourself or downplay your accomplishments. I am rooting for you. this community is rooting for you. So for our first exercise in being unapologetic, I want you to share something about yourself that you're incredibly proud of in the comments. Have you started taking better care of yourself? Have you learned to accept help and kind treatment? Finally walked away from that toxic relationship? Hit your fitness goal? Got married? Had a baby? Stopped drinking? Started a business? Got your dream job? Let the community know, because you deserve to share it proudly without tiptoeing and to be applauded for it by other women striving for all forms of greatness in their own lives as well. If this video and these words resonated with you and where you are in life, you may just be ready for your unapologetic era. And as someone who's taken up residence here, I'd like to say welcome. I think you're going to love it here. Until next time, ladies, stay feminine, stay focused, and have fun.